Okay, our next step is going to be, we're going to have to put the bracket that holds the front of the rear fender on the motorcycle. This is fairly simple if you just follow these instructions. If you'll notice, I've got a floor jack just under the right side, but it's got to be under the frame. It can't be under the swing arm. It has to be able to lift the motorcycle up just a little bit to take the tension off the rear tire. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and jack this up just until we get the tire just barely clear. Barely turn. Just like that. What that does is that allows us to go ahead and release the tension on the bolt that holds the rear of the shock under the motorcycle there. So anyway, I'll go ahead and show you how to do that next. Okay, we're going to go ahead and loosen the bolt that holds the rear of the shock down. So I'll zoom that in there like that. Okay, I think if you grab a what I've got here is just a 14 millimeter 3/8 drive socket and a 17 millimeter box end wrench. If you just put those on there like that and just twist, you should be able to undo the, can't see with my hands there, can you? Basically, you're just going to go ahead and undo that bolt. Okay, now I got the nut off. What we'll do next is we're going to go ahead and okay, you may want to play with your jack just a little bit. If you go too high, it'll put tension on the bolt. If you go too low, it'll put tension on the bolt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it just a little bit. Okay, now as I raise the motorcycle, what will happen? The tension will become free, so you can just go ahead and push that bolt out. And there it goes. It's a little sticky. There again, you may want to play with it just a little bit. You can kind of tell by twisting the bolt when you get the tension just right. Okay, and we're going to went ahead and got the bolt out. So the bolt's out, the shock is loose. We're ready for our next step. Now we're going to show you how to insert this bracket. Now this bracket is the front fender bracket. It'll go ahead and kind of fasten right around the shock absorber, rear of the shock absorber mount. Shock absorber mount. So anyway, this is what the bracket looks like. If you'll notice, these bushings are here. Got the bolt, a washer, the two spacers, the washer, and the nylock nut. Make sure it'll go in the motorcycle just exactly that way. So anyway, I'll go ahead and show you how this mounts in. It basically mounts in the motorcycle this way. This is the tire here, so we'll go ahead and show you how that works. Go ahead and take this apart. And it's a little tricky because you're going to have to kind of get your hands down there and get everything situated around that shock mount. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and put a little oil on this. I'm going to just go ahead and put a little lightweight oil on this. Might just help it go in there. Just kind of rub that around on there. Kind of rub the oil around on there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to lower this just like this. We're going to lower this into the motorcycle like this. Okay, now you're going to have to play with your jack a little bit. Again, if your jack bleeds off, you're going to have to raise it up just a little bit just to get that shock. Sometimes you have to lift the shock up so that the shock will line up with the hole it's on the bracket on the motorcycle. So you may want to actually look to the right side and make sure that lines up before you try to slide the bolt through. So anyway, I'll go ahead and do that and we'll be right back. There again, before you try to put the bracket on, you may want to go ahead and look to the right, raise the motorcycle up and actually look to the right side. You may have to raise the shock up just to make sure that the holes line up before you try to put this thing together, because if your jack bleeds off a little bit or whatever, it'll be real hard to put it on if you don't do that. So you kind of want to eyeball that hole on the right side, make sure before you start shoving the bolt through that everything's lining up. And like I say, make sure you lift up the shock a little bit. Okay, anyway, so we got that through there. That's what it looks like. Okay, this is the tire here. This is the rear of the bracket. This is the swing arm. Now this is going to lay flat on the swing arm when we tighten it. So basically, the bolts through. The two aluminum spacers are in between the bracket there. When you start shoving that bolt through too, don't force it. You want to make sure that it just slides through. Don't start hammering on it or something. You might ruin it. Okay, and then if you'll notice here, these are the threads of the bolt. Let's go ahead and put that through. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the nut on. Make sure you put the washer first. Washer first. Then we'll go ahead and thread that nut on there. Okay, now before we tighten that up, I'm going to go ahead and put a little oil on the outside of both sides. Put a little oil down in there because it'll make the washers slide against the heads of the bolt and the nut. That'll allow you to tighten this all up without this bracket getting all tweaked out of shape. Okay, and we'll go ahead and snug that up and we'll be right back. We'll go ahead and show you what the bracket should look like when you're all finished here. So I'll go ahead and look down on it here. There's the head of the bolt on the right. Then there's the two aluminum spacers. Check that out. And then on this side we've got the nylock nut and the washers against the black brackets. So that's the way it should look. Now when you tighten this up, this should, you'll notice that this area right here and right here should be against the swing arm. This should be making almost contact with the swing arm there. And then this should be almost making contact with the swing arm here too, this area. And if you'll notice, this area here is about parallel with the angle of the tire. So that's the way the bracket should look. And go ahead and just snug those bolts up good and tight, because you should have a lot of torque on that to make that shock absorber work properly. It should rotate on the rubber bushing and not the bolts. So go ahead and torque her up good, make sure these are against the swing arm, and then we'll move right along.